Once upon a time, when I was very young, there was one thing that made Christmas complete. In the days leading up to the big day itself, my mother and I had a certain ritual, making Christmas sugar cookies together. Now, these were rolled sugar cookies, the kind that Santa Claus prefers, and everybody knows that. So she would ask me to bring out the cookie cutters from the place way back in the kitchen drawer, where they had been waiting all year long just for this moment. So there was a Christmas tree shape, a candy cane, a star, a stocking. My mom would set out all the ingredients: sugar, flour, butter, eggs, vanilla, and anybody? Baking powder. She would mix everything, roll out the dough. My job, very important, was to cut the shapes precisely and to place them on a cookie sheet. And as the cookies baked, we got busy with the frosting. Powdered sugar, light corn syrup, has to be light, vanilla, milk. Food coloring, only red or green, and a few sprinkles here and there. We usually made several dozen. We went around, delivered in the friends, neighbors, my teachers. Of course, we would save some for ourselves, but it was necessary to set a few aside and put them out on a plate for you know who, Santa Claus, to enjoy when he stopped by our house on Christmas Eve. For me, that was a Christmas ritual, a tradition that I could not imagine missing. Even as I got older, as long as I was still living at home, making those cookies with my mom made Christmas complete. Now, if you are willing to share, I would like to know one thing that you do today, a tradition, a ritual, or maybe something that you did when you were growing up, without which Christmas would not have been complete. If you're willing to share, raise your hand, and you can speak into the, yes, a choir member can do it. Hold it close to your mouth. This is John Lathrop.
And I owe this to my family, Cranoritas.
Cranoritas?
Cranoritas.
That
yes.
Sounds like a...
it's a margarita with cranberries.
A margarita with cranberries.
Yes.
You didn't make that with your mother.
No.
Okay. Oh, all right. Tom?
Well, it wouldn't be Christmas if we didn't take the grandchildren up onto Skyline Boulevard and hunt the wily Christmas tree.
Right. That was successful this year. Anybody else? Oh, you got one.
Coming here on Christmas Eve for the Christmas Eve service and eating pizza for dinner.
That's right. I've done that before. The Christmas Eve pizza. Anyone else? Okay, I see. Oh, I'm interested in this.
Making the gingerbread house.
Making the gingerbread house. Yes, of course.
My mom's cinnamon rolls on Christmas morning.
Oh, cinnamon rolls. All right. Now I see a lot of these are revolving around food. This is my daughter, Natalie.
The lucky Christmas pickle.
The lucky Christmas pickle. Yeah, hiding under the tree somewhere. Yep. I'll tell you about that one later. I see Virginia. Oh, wait, I'll get back to you, Kim.
When I was little, we would go to the big Lutheran church, and there were lots and lots of children in that Sunday school of the Lutheran church. And we would stand up by our classes and we would say our piece. And please let me remember that piece, or I would be shamed forever if I couldn't remember that piece.
Thank you. Yeah.
So when I was growing up, the gift portion of the Christmas Day was always a free-for-all. Everybody just attacked and paper went everywhere. And when Amy and I got married, I got introduced to a new tradition, which was everybody takes a turn.
Oh,
And it lasts 2.5 hours. And so she asked me to conduct a poll. How many people do the free-for-all? Everybody takes a turn? Wow, well, I have to say, at least that way, everybody knows what everybody got. So it is great.
it was a free for all at my house growing up. One more. Who would like, oh, wait.
In the early 1970s, every Christmas Eve, we would gather at my Uncle John's house and Aunt Joe. And I thought everybody would have this special meal. It was fondue. And that was as
All right, you can't go wrong with fondue. Thank you all so much for sharing. This is fascinating and fun. Terrific. Well, it's fair to say, I think, that completeness, the idea of completeness, is one reason we just shared what would make Christmas complete, or what would Christmas wouldn't be complete without what you just mentioned. I think it's fair to say too, and one person even mentioned it, that completeness is one reason we even attend a service like this one. We can call it a tradition, we can call it a devotion to celebrating the birth of Christ, setting aside some time to affirm what this season is really all about. But whatever reason we are here, it would make us feel incomplete not to be here. And that ought to tell us something. Because the desire to feel that way and to live that way, our need to be whole and to belong and to have peace, that desire is huge. Of course, advertisers have long understood that. Every day we are bombarded with messages telling us how incomplete we are. In one way or another, we're being sold the promise of completeness, being sold the promise of wholeness. And we attempt to pursue that promise and satisfy that need in a lot of ways. We've got to finish that project. We need to fix the way we look, we believe. If I acquire that certain thing, that pair of shoes, that hairstyle, that car, I will feel so much better about myself, more worthy. If I don't lose that weight, if I don't earn that grade, if I don't make that level of income, I'll be somehow unworthy, unattractive, unwanted, incomplete. So quite often, rather than seeing an achievement of any kind as serving a good purpose in itself, all too often we tie our accomplishments to how much we value ourselves or how much we think we're valued by other people. And so we need to regularly fill that empty space between how we feel now and some ideal of what will make us whole. But one positive way we find completeness is in our rituals. Whether we practice them in a place like this or in traditions at home, rituals are ways we can find completeness. Lost count of the times someone has told me Christmas would not be complete without attending a Christmas Eve service like this one, and the service itself would not be complete if we did not hold candles and sing Silent Night, which we all will. If this is your first time with us, we will file out into the courtyard to do that. Everyone needs one of these. And I agree. I need that sense of completeness too. The interesting thing is, what we're here tonight to celebrate, the birth of Christ, was and is God's way of demonstrating that the completeness we yearn for is already here. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, we know that tension in our lives, either wanting to recreate the past to make things complete or trying to bridge the gap between who we are now and some future better version of ourselves. But I know that when I cling to my memories, as much as I might cherish them, try as I might, my memories cannot be fully grasped. I value my memories, my experiences, their wisdom and their meaning. I would not be who I am today without them. They make me laugh, cry, feel good, or make me feel longing. But memories are like phantoms, and it's not the point of our lives to recreate the past or to chase after ghosts. And it's a fool's errand to think that something in the future, if only we can acquire it, if only we can earn it, that will ever make us whole. Our work really is to live in this moment, in this space between yesterday and tomorrow, as fully as we can, as alert as possible, as compassionate and kind as we can possibly be. It's in this present space that we can be at peace with who we are. Because it's now that the angels appear to us announcing, hey, wake up. God is doing something wonderful and you are invited to the party. Come to this manger and see the reality that God is with us here now completely in this very moment. There's peace, hope, joy, and love in this child. There's wholeness in this child, value beyond measure in this child. A real physical manifestation of what God wants all of us to know and live today, that peace, hope, joy, and love are already with us, that we're already worthy, that we are already complete. A few years ago, a movie came out, you may have seen it, called It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It tells the story of a journalist for Esquire magazine named Lloyd Vogel. He is assigned to interview Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. Now, Lloyd's something of a cynic, and he understands his job as unmasking the real Mr. Rogers, the man behind the children's TV host, whose public persona is that he is the nicest, most gentle and accepting and loving person ever. But Lloyd Vogel wonders, who is Mr. Rogers really? Surely, there has to be a dark side to him. It's just too weird for someone to be that perfect. So Lloyd spends several weeks observing and interviewing Fred Rogers, and he discovers that while there is no dark side to speak of to Fred Rogers, at the same time, he's far from perfect. The thing is, Lloyd has assumed that just like himself and just like practically anyone he'd ever met before, that there was a tension between who Fred Rogers was and who he believed he should be, a gap between feeling incomplete and some ideal of wholeness. But what he discovers in Fred Rogers is a perspective that changes Lloyd's life for the better. Fred Rogers offers Lloyd unconditional acceptance. He likes Lloyd just the way Lloyd is. And no one had ever offered him that before. No one. And in discovering acceptance just as he is, Lloyd finds that the healing in his own life that he desperately needs is possible. But it's only possible if he first accepts that even in his own imperfection, he is still worthy and whole and loved. Lloyd discovers, he finds the truth that we seek, the truth that we celebrate tonight, the truth that God made real in a baby all those years ago, and that God makes real every single day. And this is that truth. God is so very joyful that you are you, exactly the way you are. Your imperfections, they only mean that you are human. They do not mean that you're unworthy. You have nothing to prove. You are already enough. You are valued beyond measure. You are loved. You are complete. So Merry Christmas. The mention of